Good afternoon and welcome to Ewood Park for this Barclays League second division match between Blackburn Rovers and Barnsley. Blackburn Rovers line up to start with. In goal, Darren Collier. 2, Mark Atkins. And making his debut at number 3, Mike Duxbury. 4, Nicky Reid. 5, Keith Hill. 6, Kevin Moran. 7, Lee Richardson. 8, John Miller. 9, Frank Stapleton. 10, Phil Starbuck. 11, Jason Wilcox. 12, Len John Rose. 14, Neil Oliver. And the Barnsley team: number 1, Clive Barker. 2, Gary Fleming. 3, Jerry Taggart. 4, Brian McCord. 5, Mark Smith. 6, Kyle Tyler. 7, Mark Robinson. 8, Steve Cooper. 9, Andy Saville. 10, Dean Connolly. 11, Owen Archdeacon. And the 2 substitutes at 12, Brendan O'Connell, and 14, Andy Rammell. 1 minute silence for David Longest. And nice to see the 1 minute silence respected in memory of David Longest, who tragically died last Saturday in the York City versus Lincoln City match at Bootham Crescent, aged 25. Our referee this afternoon, very well known official, experienced FIFA man, Joe Worrell from Warrington, who now gets the match underway. First touch for Keith Hill, back to Darren Collier. Long high ball downfield, trying to find Stapleton, but it's Carl Tyler above him, heading out to Mark Robinson, whose pass is blocked. Throw by Owen Archdeacon to Andy Saville, down the line by Archdeacon, and Atkins flicks it out to play, rising above Mark Robinson. Owen Archdeacon again with the throw, return ball to him, down the line. Steve Cooper trying to get there but bundled off it, and Kevin Moran yet again displaying a souvenir of battle. A plaster, we hope, firmly fixed to his forehead following the bag cut at Bristol City, which reopened against Newcastle and caused him to miss the match at Ipswich last week. And the man who just touched the ball then, Frank Stapleton, will be quite grateful, I should think, to be back in a normal position for him, a striking role after filling in an emergency in central defence in Kevin Moran's absence. As the flag is raised and the first offside of the match is against Andy Saville, the Barnsley centre forward. Trying to find Stapleton again, this time he wins it in the air, flicks it onto Starbuck, good tackle on the edge of the box, robs him. And Barnsley get it back, although Gary Fleming goes down in the challenge and remains rooted to the spot on the edge of the box, which causes Mr. Worrell to bring the match to an end for a moment, and the physio makes his way across, and let's hope, with only 1.5 minutes gone, that Gary Fleming isn't seriously hurt. Well, I dare say the eyes of the crowd will be on a few players this afternoon. Just to point 1 or 2 of them out for you. First one, of course, making his league debut for the Rovers at left back, replacing the injured Chris Sully, is Mike Duxbury, obtained on a free transfer from Manchester United. Played in the pre-season games, but then was injured prior to the opening league game of the season So he's making his first league appearance today and making his home debut after his first match last week at Ipswich is the on loan signing from Nottingham Forest, number 10, Philip Starbuck. And the Barnsley supporters don't have the opportunity immediately to do their new signing. On the substitutes bench at 14 is Andy Rammell, a Manchester United reserve striker who was signed for £100,000 during this last week. Cooper, distinctive character of course, with the blonde hair, just as Colin Hendry used to be in the Rovers lineup, and very nice to see him out on this green turf of Ewood Park in Noel Brotherston's testimonial on Tuesday. Probably got the biggest cheer of the night for his appearance as Atkins goes into the tackle. Won by Starbuck. Miller and Stapleton ahead. He plays it out wide to Wilcox. Duxbury chips it in, but I was going to say into no man's land, but Wilcox managed to get there and put Jerry Taggart under pressure, but the only result was a goal kick to Barnsley. Which Clive Baker will take. Up goes Cooper, wins it in the air, but it only drops to Mike Duxbury. Up the line to Stapleton. Quick challenge and an unfair one by Taggart. Mr. Worrell having a quick word with him. Looks like a fairly stern word as well, so he's going to have to watch it from now on. Ex-Manchester City player, followed his manager Mel Machin from Main Road. And established in this Barnsley defence. Stapleton up, flicks it on, but hammered away by Carl Tyler. That ball running loose off Andy Saville. Easy enough for Atkins to collect and push it back to Collier, who returns it to him. Moran looking upfield, plays it into midfield. Starbuck there. Back to Atkins, slow build up, and finally an accurate pass brings it to an end. Brian McCord, push back. Carl Tyler, looking for men down the line. Finds Saville, who in turn picks out Robinson. Nice ball inside, but control lets the Hull City player down. Nice bit of skill from Starbuck, but doesn't result in anything. Robbed by McCord. A long ball trying to pick out Saville is intercepted by Kevin Moran. So waiting for the game to settle down after all the players being in midfield. We're hoping of course for a far more entertaining game that we had in the last match here against Newcastle, which I was going to say died on its feet, but it never came to life to die in the first place. So let's hope we've got some better entertainment for you this afternoon. Wilcox on his right foot. Plays it low inside to Stapleton. Atkins overlapping down the right-hand side. The defence was caught for a moment, but they've moved across now. Richardson shoots just past the far post, having sent Mark Robinson slide into the deck with a beautiful body swerve. Made the room for the shot, tried to fire in the far corner, but missed it by about 5 yards. Opened his account last week at Ipswich and is obviously eager for another one. Cooper wins it, but only to Richardson. Misdirected pass and another one. Miller leaves it to Keith Hill. Trying to pick out Wilcox. The ball slowing down on this lush turf, but easy enough for the defender to collect. Kevin Moore and shepherded in this. The route to goal is cut off by Cooper. Plays it inside to Keith Hill. Yet again finds that he can't pick out Collier, so hits the ball upfield and it comes off Archdeacon for a throw. Atkins to take it. Down the line to Starbuck. Beaten in the air by this tall defender, Carl Tyler. Atkins picks out Stapleton, who finds Starbuck, who in turn gives it to Miller. Nice build up this, with Mike Duxbury joining the action. Nicky Reid, 6 or 7 passes together until it reaches Wilcox, hemmed in on the touchline. And Gary Fleming, fully recovered from his injury, toe pokes it out of play. Starbuck, nice overhead kick inside, just a little too high the bounce there for Duxbury. And at full stretch he can just lob it right into the arms of Clive Baker. Headed by Wilcox down the line, but this is Taggart's ball all the way. The flag's raised, and yet again it's Andy Saville caught offside. Just venturing that yard or two past the last Rovers defender. Wilcox heads inside. Tyler. Sorry, that was Mark Smith with a bit of a panic header. Baker was right behind him, but presumably no shout. Wilcox to Starbuck. Hard challenge coming in from Mark Robinson. Moran wins it. Miller plays it wide to Duxbury. Starbuck going up the line. Wilcox has come short. Nicky Reid's now over on the left. Starbuck's gone in the middle. Reid back to Duxbury, but clattered to the ground by Tyler. And Duxbury with the opportunity now to put this in. Plays it short with his right foot to Hill. Hill goes to the return. Starbuck retains possession himself though. Stapleton can't find him with a return ball. But Jerry Taggart puts too much power behind it. Clive Baker can't collect. And it's a corner to be taken by Jason Wilcox. Left-footed. Into the 6-yard box. Baker misses it. Miller gets the header in but couldn't get any power in it. And it was cleared off the line. So the Rovers very close to the opening goal there as they try to build up again. This time cleared back by Brian McCord. And the man who came to the rescue of Barnsley there with the header off the line was Gary Fleming. John Miller was a prolific scorer in pre-season games, which was unusual for him. He hasn't got too many in competitive football. But he came very close there to opening his league account for the season. Wilcox leaving it to Duxbury and making his way up that left touch line. Duxbury looking for movement, not finding any, so he waits and gives people a chance to reposition. Finally gives it to Miller. High ball into the box, away by Smith. Miller makes Duxbury work for this one. And Duxbury very nearly picked out Cooper, and that would have given him an excellent chance. There was only Kevin Moore and back there. But fortunately for the Rovers, it slid past his right boot. And now the Rovers are coming forward again through Stapleton and Reid. Quick challenge by Mark Smith, puts it out to play. Starbuck, high challenge coming in by Smith, but the referee's happy enough. Cooper clattered by Moran, possibly giving Barnsley the first opportunity to mount an attack on the Rovers' goal. This free kick to be taken by Carl Tyler. Only 2 men forward on the edge of the box for Barnsley at the moment. Saville and Cooper. Goes over to Cooper, heads into the middle. Headed on by Archdeacon, but he was climbing on the back of Nicky Reid. And Mr. Worrell's arm is raised, and any danger to the Rovers goal comes to an end. Starbuck under this, beaten by Taggart. Falls to Wilcox. Decides that all other options apart from a pass back to Collier are close to him. Tyler wins in the air against Starbuck. 2 challenges, and Miller gives the ball to Wilcox. Reid in the charge with Taggart. 2 ex-Manchester City players, of course. Different times, though. I wouldn't have thought that they played together in the same team. Cooper brings it down. Saville, sorry. Now it's Cooper. Nice ball into the box, and it's a judge goal. Atkins was alert to that and got a foot to it before Brian McCord, who was coming flying in behind him. And Joe Worrell had a quick word with the Barnsley midfield player. Tyler up above Stapleton. Got a couple of inches advantage, I should think, over these Rovers forwards. And he's definitely making it tell in the early stages of this match. As we reach the quarter-hour mark, and we still await the first goal in the match, as that ball goes off Atkins and away for a throw to Barnsley, which Archdeacon will take. Into the box to Saville, always making himself available. Now it's Robinson. Atkins close in on him, beats off the challenge, and he goes all the way through. And Andy Saville is claiming a touch on that, but the Rovers' defence was absolutely wide open. Once Mark Robinson had evaded Mark Atkins' lunging challenge, he put a hard, low but not very hard cross into the box. Andy Saville slid in completely unchallenged, could only have got a toe end to it, but it was enough to divert it past Darren Collier into the far corner of the net. But we've got to ask where the Rovers' defence was. The 6-yard box was completely untenanted, and it was easy enough for Andy Saville to put Barnsley 1-0 ahead. So an early shock for the home crowd as Rovers try to bounce back immediately. And the Barnsley fans at the Darwin end, is to my right hand side, as you can expect, exultant at that lead, which came after just 15 and a half minutes. Wilcox round his man into the box. Starbuck further across, but Barnsley men were there in contrast to the Rovers' defence, and it was Archdeacon helping out, who flicked it away on the foul on Cooper, which is bringing a word for Mike Duxbury from a busy referee in the early stages, Joe Worrell. And Barnes gives Barnsley the chance to settle it down and dwell on the satisfaction of an early goal. Trying to pick out Mark Robinson. Atkins there, but yet again Andy Saville putting in plenty of workload, getting across, making sure there's no back pass available. Dean Connolly to Robinson. Down the line by McCord, cut out by Moore, and Rovers having difficulty clearing it. But I don't think a shot like that will worry them as it flies above the Walker Steel sign at the Blackburn end and falls into the cobbled street behind. Joe Worrell happy with the replacement ball. And Collier to take this goal kick. Probably still baffled as to how that ball managed to find its way in the back of his net. Miller leaves it to Keith Hill. And Keith Hill in turn decides to go up to supplement the attack. And Moran will put this ball forward. And he is in fact the only one back, but no Barnsley forwards are up there anyway. And Stapleton goes off, flicks up a couple of Barnsley players, and then Mark Smith very nearly knocks it out of the arms of Clive Baker. So there are a few signs of misunderstanding between these Barnsley defenders, but as yet it hasn't caused them too much anxiety. As Archdeacon puts the ball down the left to Andy Saville. Yet again worrying this Rovers defence, as he has done from the very first minute of the game. Well, both teams have got off to a disappointing start. The Rovers have played 4 games, won 1 and lost 3, whilst Barnsley, from a game less, have won 1 and lost 2. As Robinson floats that ball into no man's land. So the point's very important to both sides who are in the bottom regions of the league table. As we reach the 4th Saturday of the season. And 3 points will be very welcome whichever camp they go to. And will cause worries in the losing camp. It's sometimes difficult to recover from a poor start to the season. Confidence tends to ebb away. Miller to Atkins. Richardson on the right hand side in the absence of Alan Irvine. Atkins with another opportunity. Yet again can't pick anybody out as Mark Robinson charges his pass down. Into Starbuck, who's putting in quite a lot of work up front. Keeps showing whenever a Rovers player looks as though he needs a colleague to help him out. And Nicky Reed sent tumbling by Mark McCord. So yet again Keith Hill up at the front with Moran to take the free kick. 5 men, edge of the box, headed away by Tyler. Miller retrieves it. Duxbury slow on the turn. Cooper away, tries to find Saville, does do so, moves to the right of Moran, onto the left foot, shoots, and initially Darren Collier was going the wrong way. I'm not certain if there was a deflection or what, but he was able to recover after his initial movement to the right, take 1 pace back to the left and collect the shot. But the confidence is beginning to flow through these men in red shirts. Dean Connolly can only find Miller. That'll hold up long enough for Wilcox. Slides in but can't keep it in play. Looks hopefully across for a corner, but even that's denied him by Joe Worrell. Cooper coming back for this, flicks it on, but Reed collects. Hill to Miller, now Duxbury. Barnsley marking very tight now. They'll not throw this goal away very easily. The Rovers are going to have to work for an opening. Every time a Rovers player gets the ball at the moment, he's immediately put under challenge by a Barnsley player. Cooper flicks it on. Played wide by Saville, picks out Robinson. Obviously a right-footed player. Because if he'd been able to take that on his left foot, which normally you'd expect somebody on the left-hand side of the pitch to do, he would have been away from Mark Atkins. But as it was, playing it with his right foot, he had to come back inside, and that gave Atkins the chance to get in the challenge. Moran with a short one to Starbuck. Richardson has stayed out on this right-hand side to give himself a little extra room. Atkins doubles down that touchline for him. Sent tumbling to the pitch by Mark Robinson. And a free kick in a dangerous position for Blackburn Rovers. Atkins now joined by Wilcox. And 5 or 6 men in the box as Atkins puts it in the 6-yard box. Baker happy to get a fist to it. Out towards the touchline where Miller finds Reid. Back to Mike Duxbury. Headed away by Cooper. Every time that the Rovers do have a free kick anywhere near this Barnsley half, all 11 Barnsley players are coming back. Well, that ball finds its way to Stapleton, but Nicky Reid beaten, and away come Barnsley until Andy Saville puts an over-ambitious ball down that right-hand side. Cooper about 20 yards adrift of it. A triangular play there between the Rovers, and Keith Hill totally wastes it. Acknowledges his mistake by raising his left arm, and will hope to do better next time. Baker with a long ball downfield, trying to pick out Cooper. Does do so, headed inside. McCord beaten to it by Reid, but Barnsley still in possession. Archdeacon, men in the middle. Cooper on that far side, Saville supporting him. Free kick goes in favour of Blackburn. I was talking about Andy Rammell joining Barnsley in midweek, and the rumours are that the Barnet defender Phil Griddlett will be joining them in this next midweek, and he's rated £175,000. Gives you some idea of the high inflation of transfer fees when a First Division reserve costs 100,000 and a non-league defender costs 175,000. Gives you some idea of what kind of fee the Rovers have got to pay in order to strengthen the squad that's been decimated by injuries at the start of this season. Mike Duxbury, to give you some idea of the dilemma, is the 19th player to turn out for the Rovers first team in only 5 league games this season. And quite a few other players have played out of position as well, as Richardson does today on the right-hand side of the pitch. Wilcox tricks his way past 2 men. Nice run by the youngster. Cross a little too close to Clive Baker though. But it was a nice run up the byline. And could well have produced an equaliser as this misunderstanding between the Barnsley defenders continues, as Jerry Taggart very nearly puts the ball wide of Clive Baker, and it took a dive to his right hand side to save the corner. Cooper on to Saville, looking a very dangerous striking partnership that. And boy oh boy, do Barnsley need strikers. Last season the top goal scorer was Agnew with 8, and 2 of those were penalties. And then Curry, who's now with with Oldham, having had a spell with Nottingham Forest, was the next in line with 7. One of those a penalty, and he left the club in mid-January. And the third highest score was the number 8 today, Steve Cooper, with 5. So it gives you some idea of why Barnsley have been in the transfer market, to try and supplement the striking power. As this ball runs loose, Taggart, much to the relief of Clive Baker, gives him a far nicer ball to collect. Cooper collects, places it straight to the feet of Lee Richardson though, looking around for support, puts a nice ball past Nicky Reid, but Tyler, I was going to say, is covering, but he lost out. But the only result is a throw to Barnsley, to be taken by Archdeacon. Looking down the line, Cooper's there, spent most of his time on the right hand side of the pitch, drifted across to the left but didn't have any success on this side, so perhaps he'll revert to the right again. Mark Smith wins it. Can only find Miller though. Lot better ball from Keith Hill. Baker loses his feet but not the ball. Feels his back, he might have twisted it as he went down there. Just walking around the penalty area feeling it a little bit gingerly. Perhaps an ideal opportunity if it comes to the Rovers to try and lob him. Robinson beaten by Atkins. Archdeacon, long, high, drifting ball, just drifting into the penalty area for Darren Collier to collect it. Good header by Gary Fleming, getting above Jason Wilcox. Nicky Reid looking to his right for Atkins, who in turn looked up. Richardson hadn't quite made his way up to the right hand touch line, so he plays it inside instead, and that persistent challenge comes in again from Barnsley. Stapleton shoots, suspicious offside position, but he managed to trick his way past Jerry Taggart and get in a left footed shot, but collected above his head by Clive Baker. Never much prospect of an equaliser with that. Clive Baker had it covered all the way. So the clock ticks round to 30 minutes gone, and we have a scoreline of Blackburn Rovers 0, Barnsley 1. Quick challenge from Nicky Reid, wins it. Stapleton brought down, but Joe Worrell happy enough with it. Waves play on, and Mark Smith can play this ball across to his defensive colleague Carl Tyler. Long high ball upfield. Mark Robinson does very well to keep it in play, as he had to quickly move backwards 2 or 3 paces, and the Rovers defence being harassed at every move, and as a result of that, hitting misplaced passes. Archdeacon to Dean Connolly. Taggart pushing the ball through to Saville. The offside flag goes up, but the ball drifted a couple of yards wide anyway. Quickly taken by the Rovers, who will be eager to get back into this game. Not really show much of a sense of urgency after going behind. Well, or before they did, if it comes to that. Going to have to pick up the pace and pep it up a bit to trouble this Barnsley side, that at the moment is comfortably holding the home team. Cooper flicks it wide. Fleming up with him, but runs loose. Duxbury hits it up, right-footed to Stapleton. Inside to Richardson. possibly feels a little bit more comfortable in central midfield, and a nice pass out to Atkins, and as per usual, once somebody moves away from a position, it's Nicky Reid who fills in for them, as there he was up the right hand touchline for Richardson, and now inside, and that flick ball won't find Richardson. He was further forward than that, pedalled all the way back with Robinson. Saville in the chase with Collier, but Collier quicker off the mark. Mr. Worrell saying that Barnsley are entitled to bring the ball forward about another 5 or 6 yards. Mark Robinson grateful to do so. He's now going to launch a long throw into the box. 4 men in it and 1 man on the edge of the box. Flicked on by Carl Tyler over the bar, but the whistle had already gone for the push on Atkins. Collier with the long high ball hanging in the air. And it's Smith who wins it. Robinson sent tumbling by Nicky Reid. Played to that familiar sight over there, the blonde head of Steve Cooper, and he wins a corner. Seems to be a favourite tactic of Barnsley's, that when they get a free kick, they whack it over to that far right hand side of the box, and Steve Cooper gets up in an attempt to head it inside to Andy Saville. As this corner comes in, left footed, penalty spot, headed on, but free kick awarded. Brian McCord it was who fouled Kevin Moran. Very hard working midfield player. He's put plenty of effort into this first 35 minutes of the match. Nothing too constructive, but harassing Rovers midfield players at every turn. And that's obviously one of the ploys in the Barnsley make-up, not to let anybody rest on the ball at all, as that challenge on John Miller proves. Keith Hill with the ball, wide to Wilcox. Drops to him now, twists and turns, beaten by Dean Connolly, and down the field it goes from Gary Fleming. Beautiful piece of work by Steve Cooper, finds his way past Keith Hill, but his enterprise doesn't gain the reward it possibly should have done, as Andy Saville is beaten to it by Atkins, and at the other end a mix-up between Stapleton and Starbuck, playing together up front for the first time today, so you can't expect there to be good cohesion as yet. Kevin Moran's plaster is showing sign of wear, although fortunately for the Rovers setup, so far his forehead isn't. But it's a worrying injury. A Starbuck managed to block McCord's clearance, and Stapleton's weak effort, I think he was intending to try and lob Clive Baker, possibly feeling that he'd still be feeling that tweak in his back, as I talked about a couple of minutes ago, but if that was what he was attempting to do, then the execution wasn't there. Cooper up above 2, gets it to Saville. Robinson. 3-3, showing the promise of more goals to come in this match. Taggart up, flicks off his head to Starbuck. Miller's miss it pass, but rescued by Wilcox. Starbuck gives it him back on his favourite left foot. Cross over the far side, Nicky Reid up. Can't get any direction in it, he was put off by Archdeacon going up in front of him and just glanced it wide of the post. McCord wins it and wins the free kick. Oh, talking about Owen Archdeacon, ex-Celtic player, wearer of the famous green and white hoop shirts. Following on from another ex-colleague of his from last home match, Newcastle United's Roy Aitken. This time Mike Duxbury reads that free kick. They've played it often enough, perhaps it's becoming a bit predictable now. Moran under this, wins it. Screws off Archdeacon's foot, but Tyler's covering him. And there's that challenge going in again from a Barnsley player, Dean Connolly, who's now got the ball at his feet. Miller called over by Joe Worrell, who's handed out quite a number of warnings in this first half. I must be getting exasperated by one or two players' rash challenges. You just wonder how long his patience will go before he reaches into the back pocket for the yellow card. As Barnsley with this free kick, 5 or 6 men on the far side of the box. Cooper up, but Moran flicks it away. Push on Stapleton, who after the experiences of his defensive duties last week is obviously eager for more. Good player at coming back and covering one of the 2 posts, usually the near one, when there's a free kick or a corner against them. Archdeacon, aimless ball downfield. Flick on by Starbuck, only finds Archdeacon. Robinson inside, Saville flicks it on. Dean Connolly nearly latched onto it, but Moran was there. Quick piece of passing there by Barnsley, very nearly opened up the Rovers' defence. And if there's going to be another goal, it looks as though it's going to be the away team to get it. Completely in control of this match, Barnsley, and sitting very comfortably on this 1-goal lead as we move towards half-time. Rovers not really troubling them in any area of the pitch. The only exception possibly Jason Wilcox over on the left-hand side, who's managed to get away a few times and gets some crosses in. Atkins forward to Starbuck. Nicky Reid plays it wide to that man I was just talking about a minute ago, Jason Wilcox, but the Rovers are forced back. Starbuck evades the challenge of Taggart, but as he played the ball forward to the area where he thought Nicky Reid was, it was actually the area Nicky Reid was occupying about 10 seconds before. He doubled back out to the penalty area. Flick on by Cooper. And I'm sorry to say that The Ewood faithful are yet again suffering a lacklustre, lifeless display from the favourites, just as they did a fortnight ago. And they will look for a lot more from the team than they've given in the first half. As Joe Worrell waves away Mark Smith for that challenge on the back of Phil Starbuck's legs. Starbuck in the action again. Jason Wilcox cutting inside, looking for support. Can only find support from Mr. Worrell. But at least he managed to find a blue and white shirted player. Perhaps we should give it him more often. Wilcox beaten this time by Fleming. Saville gives it to Joe Worrell, who yet again finds a blue and white shirted player. And Miller lobs it just over the top. So 2 passes from Joe Worrell have very nearly created goals for the Rovers. Nice effort there that just drifted over the top right hand side of the goal. Cooper heads it wide, but Fleming is happy enough just to mark the space that Wilcox was likely to move into. As that very hard challenge goes in from John Miller. Sending Dean Connolly sprawling on the turf. And nice to see Dean Connolly just rise to his feet and walk away, which makes a change after all the histrionics in the World Cup in Italy. If he'd rolled over 2 or 3 times, it could well have cost John Miller a booking. As Archdeacon collects, plays it wider out to the right to Fleming. Decides to give the responsibility back to Archdeacon. A bit of confusion between Kevin Moran and Darren Collier. Cooper flicks it, but flicks it about 5 yards wide of the left-hand post. Collier waves Richardson forward. And Mr. Worrell brings what has been a disappointing first 45 minutes to an end. The only saving grace has been the endeavour, enthusiasm and effort of the visitors today, Barnsley, which has given them a deserved lead of 1-0 with a goal from Andy Saville in the 15th minute. Well, the half-time cuppers seem to have warmed up the Rovers supporters, and they gave a very encouraging cheer to the team as they came out at the start of this second half. Gary Fleming, good run up the right-hand touchline, finds Cooper. Saville's gone inside, flicked off Keith Hill. Richardson had come back and marked Archdeacon. That ball runs loose, Richardson quickly onto it, but quicker still was Carl Tyler. As Barnsley look to increase the lead that they've got at this moment. But that ball from Mark Robinson drifted beyond Steve Cooper. Wilcox flicks on. Stapleton behind him. Inside to Wilcox. Promising move. Miller to Starbuck. But move brought to an end. Robinson plays it upfield, but I was going to say the Rovers still in possession, but not very good possession at the moment. It might be now. Starbuck beaten by Tyler again. And Duxbury forced inside. Gone on a run down the left. Here he is now. Going forward himself. Starbuck tries to turn it out to Richardson but loses his feet. Archdeacon back to Tyler. And the cheers rise in the throats of the fans as they hope for an encouraging start to this second 45 minutes of the match. But Barnsley, as they did throughout the whole of the first half, hustling and bustling and making it very difficult for the Rovers to bring any kind of pattern and cohesion into their play. Duxbury up, but they're forced back towards their own penalty area. Nice chest down by Starbuck, gets it back from Reed but can't find Stapleton. Keith Hill to Starbuck, see if he can do better this time. He can. Richardson, bit of room in which to work, although he has got two players marking him. Puts it beyond Mark Atkins, who retrieves it. Moran drifts it right into the arms of Clive Baker. Well, what a contrast from last season, when at a similar stage of the season Barnsley were, I can only phrase it as annihilated, 5-0, and it could have been many more. Probably the Rovers' most scintillating display all last season, with the goals coming from a Garner hat-trick, Scott Sellers and Andy Kennedy. What they wouldn't give to have those three out on the pitch this afternoon. But in contrast to that, the match later in the season at Barnsley finished goalless, as the Rovers fought for a playoff spot and Barnsley to avoid the relegation zone. Both being successful in the different ways in achieving those ends at the end of the season. As this corner to be taken by Jason Wilcox. Of course, they've now got the support of the Blackburn end as this cross comes in high into the 6-yard box, headed away. It's going to be a repeat performance. Wilcox to take it again. Keith Hill up, beaten to it, and he fouls his opponent as well, Mark Robinson. Drifts past all three of the players in the challenge there. A long, high ball by Duxbury drifts out of play for a throw. Gary Fleming with it. Nobody within 20 or 30 yards. They're coming closer now. Saville brings it down, takes on Duxbury, and ends up on the turf for his pains as he looked for a moment as though he was going to break clear on the right hand side. So Worrell insisting on it being taken from the right spot. Owen Archdeacon to take it, left footed into the box, swinging it in. Hard over the far side, heads up, flicks off Stapleton, and away for a corner. Mark Robinson to take this. Collier comes too far and is a very relieved man. He got a fingertip on it and it was perhaps enough to put Andy Saville off, and the only thing he could do was head it back to the awaiting arms of Collier as the action switches to the other end. Reed to Wilcox. Wilcox cut into the box but couldn't get round the outstretched foot of Archdeacon, and suddenly there's a bit more life and zip in this match. Although sure, Mike Duxbury wishes there wasn't as he gets to his feet after that challenge by Brian McCord. only just returned from injury, of course, and he won't want many more challenges like that as he just steps rather gingerly on his left foot. Moran to the edge of the box. Stapleton flicks on. Starbuck there, but he's penalised. Barnsley really packing that penalty area at any sign of danger. And quite happy to clear the lines, which they will do now through Clive Baker. Andy Saville holds the ball nicely. McCord fails to find Dean Connolly. Moran plays it back. Flick on by Starbuck, but only to Mark Smith. Duxbury. Everybody crowded in the middle third of the pitch. As the physio comes on to have a look at Mike Duxbury. Not Mike Duxbury. Is it Jason? Yes, Jason Wilcox. Didn't see him take a knock at all, but he's obviously felt the knock he did take, and he's now down on the ground receiving treatment. Well, I suppose it's quite ironic that it was only this Tuesday that Howard Kendall brought his Manchester City team here for Noel Brotherston's benefit match. And today we have his predecessor, Mel Machin, in charge of the Barnsley team. It's amazing really to think that even though Mel Machin brought Manchester City out of Division 2 into Division 1, he lost his job because, according to Peter Swales, he couldn't find any rapport with the fans. And a cracking shot there. First time effort from Mark Atkins. Swerves and dips, much to the relief of Clive Baker, just over the far corner of the net. Well, completely out of the blue that. The cross just drifting in towards the edge of the penalty area. And Mark Atkins, regular goal scorer from full back, very nearly found the back of the net. And what heart that would have put into the Rovers team and fans. Keith Hill under challenge from that terrier of a player, Andy Saville, forced all the way back, as Atkins and Moran in turn are by challenges from Saville's colleagues. Fleming and Wilcox. Wilcox wins it, but not a controlled pass. Miller brings it down, and Duxbury plants it forward. McCord playing it out wide, but intercepted by Mark Atkins. Put right out to this left-hand side to Jason Wilcox, who wins a corner off Gary Fleming, who shows Akabusi's skills in hurdling over the photographer's box. And that was very nearly a repeat of the Barnsley goal, as Jason Wilcox corner came in, Stapleton flicked it on, but this time there was a Barnsley player to block his header. Otherwise it could well have found the corner of the net for the equaliser. Cooper loses out to Moran. Wilcox back to Jason Wilcox. Low cross to the near post, but cleared away by Mark Smith. Kevin Moran as Rovers put the pressure on. Atkins finds Richardson. Twists and turns on that right hand side. Can't escape the attentions of Archdeacon, but earns a free kick. And the Rovers will be eager to get something from this. And Barnsley will be just as eager to deny them. Left-footed cross, headed away by Saville. Wilcox collects, showing no after effects from his injury. Puts it forward, too far ahead of Stapleton. Claims he's bought by Mark Smith, but the only thing Mark Smith was doing was avoiding a collision with Clive Baker. No chance whatsoever of a free kick being awarded, although there is this time. Steve Cooper takes a knock in the back from Mike Duxbury. So Gary Fleming to take this free kick. 5 men strung out just outside the penalty area. Now joined by Tyler. In it comes, and up they go. Flicked away, but it's still in the danger zone. Cooper brings it down, turns, but Keith Hill blocks it before he can shoot. Andy Saville lurking in the danger zone, but Atkins brings it away, clears it down the line. Comes off Archdeacon to Starbuck. Finds Jason Wilcox, takes on his man. Fleming beaten, cross going in. And there is Frank Stapleton, and there is the equaliser. Well, I said at the end of the first half that if any danger was going to come, it was going to come from this left-hand side of the pitch from Jason Wilcox. And with 14 minutes gone in the second half, that prediction has more than come true. As Phil Starbuck set him away on the left, he turned Gary Fleming inside out, put a delightful cross in the box, and for once Frank Stapleton had got clear of the central defenders, and a nice gentle header loped its way over Clive Baker's head and into the back of the net to give us a scoreline of Blackburn Rovers 1, Barnsley 1. And Frank Stapleton's second goal of the season. And now we'll see what this Barnsley defence is made of, as one assumes that the Rovers will throw everything at him apart from the kitchen sink in an attempt to take the lead. As Keith Hill moves to the edge of the box once more. I thought in the first half that he was only doing that once there was a bit of desperation in the Rovers play to get back into the game as a goal down, but even at 1 apiece he's pushing forward. McCord, he had plenty of room there, but instead he played it wide to Robinson. I thought he could have gone on through midfield at least 5 to 10 yards more, and may well have found himself with a shooting opportunity, but he decided the better ball was out to the left hand side to Robinson. But the Rovers are coming forward now, only momentarily though, as McCord again picks it up, and yet again he's got space in front of him. Robinson with the cross, trying to pick out Saville, raises a foot, fortunately not high enough to catch Kevin Moran's forehead. Collier trying to find Stapleton, beaten by Smith. Out to Collier, out to Wilcox, sorry. That one just runs into the box. Gives Clive Baker an easy time just to pick it up, send his massive red shirts forward and launch the ball after them. Fleming. Up the line to Cooper. Comes off Kevin Moran. Corner awarded. Bounced off Kevin Moran's knees. And Archdeacon to take this corner. As Barnsley look for a swiftly prior to that equaliser, but they won't find it with crosses like that. Wilcox as Rovers try a quick break. Starbuck to Richardson. Atkins running past him. Richardson gives it him. Can Atkins get the cross in? Richardson cutting in. Looking for space. Shoots just wide of that far hand post. And it very nearly gave the Rovers the lead. Cooper wins it. But suddenly the 50-50 challenges are dropping the Blackburn way. As Miller launches himself forward from midfield. Screams his frustration that nobody was there to pick up the loose ball. And now it's Barnsley looking for a quick break. As Wilcox finds himself on the deck once more. He cracked a bone in his shoulder on the pre-season tour to Sweden, which kept him out for a long spell. Only returned last week at Ipswich, and it's a little worrying that it seems to be his arm or shoulder that he's injured again. Let's hope it's not a recurrence of that shoulder problem. And just to give you some idea of Barnsley's form this season, they've played 2 games at home. Opened the season with a promising 2-1 win against Brighton, as Jason Wilcox is forced to leave the pitch, just temporary at the moment, although there is concern on the face of manager Don Mackay as he comes to the touchline. The last thing he would want is another injury to add to the welter that have occurred so far, as Starbuck finds Stapleton. And a shot comes in, but high wide and not very handsome from Mark Atkins. And it looks as though it could well be the doctor down on the touchline with Jason Wilcox, and it is the shoulder that's giving him a problem. What a disaster for this promising young player if he's put out of the game again. The opportunity had arisen with Scott Sellers' injury for him to show what he could produce, and it would be so bitterly disappointing for him with Scott Sellers still on the injury list and not due back for a number of weeks yet if he was denied the opportunity of an extended run in the first team. But he's back on the pitch, I'm glad to say. Phil Starbuck must have run about 20 yards to reach that ball, and he's really having a cracking second half, not only winning the ball but bringing his teammates into the action, spraying some lovely passes around, one of which produced the equalising goal. In it comes, flicked on by Stapleton, drops to Wilcox, he can't collect, it's hammered away by McCord. Atkins reads inside him with space, tries a shot, and it wasn't a bad effort either. Spotted that Clive Baker was off his line, and it only just drifted wide of that left hand post. That's about the 3rd time now that the Rovers have tried to loop a ball beyond Clive Baker. They obviously must feel that he's liable to move a few yards off his line and leave that space to put the ball into. And Stapleton questions that decision, a look of amazement on his face when that was given. Few questioning words with Mr. Worrell, but the free kick's given and the game will be underway with this long high ball, trying to pick out Cooper. Fails to do so. But McCord's there. He's everywhere, this bloke. Can't get his cross in though. Keith Hill's there. Stabs it away to Wilcox. And now Miller surely will make the clearance. He does, but only as far as Taggart. Runs loose to Duxbury. Only finds Smith. And Tyler changes his mind with the shout from Taggart. But eventually it's played back to the goalie. As we reach the halfway point of the second half, with both teams level. And the next goal could be absolutely crucial in deciding the result of the match. McCord, cracking cross, comes to Cooper, off Moran. And Saville puts his second goal in, but it's disallowed. The celebrations are for nothing. It was a cracking, swerving cross from McCord that picked him out. He evaded all the Rovers defenders, but the only way he evaded them was by moving into an offside position. And even the fact that you're not offside if you're level didn't come to his aid there. And as he planted a decisive header into the back of the net and celebrated, the flag was already fluttering in the breeze. Atkins, as the Rovers try to respond to that warning, but the loss of that ball has set Robinson away. Timely challenged by Moran, prevented him breaking completely into the clear. Starbuck out to Richardson. Cutting inside, forced out to the touchline. Decides to seek Atkins' assistance. That ball will hold up, as it has done throughout the match. On many an occasion the ball has looked as though it was going to run out of play, but it's held up and stayed in, and sometimes caught defenders unawares. Saville must be bitterly disappointed to see his second strike wiped out. Nicky Reid foraging forward, powering his way up this left hand side. Taggart across, absolutely flattens him and produces a deserved booking, the first one of the afternoon. So in the 70th minute, Jerry Taggart enters Joe Worrell's book. Very powerful bulldozing run that he's famous for there from Nicky Reid, and it obviously worried Jerry Taggart enough to send him flying head over heels. Wilcox leaves it to Duxbury, slanted in. Crushing challenge by Keith Hill on Clive Baker. Perhaps testing out his suspect back after that knock in the first half. John Miller heads this forward to Stapleton. Goes over him, but he still gets it on the rebound. McCord battling away, fights his way through 3 or 4 Rovers players and finds Mark Smith, who in turn picks out Archdeacon as Barnsley come forward, looking for the goal that will put them back in the lead. And the flag is raised once again to strangle the cheers of the Barnsley supporters, as Dean Connolly had wandered into an offside position. Moran with a free kick. Can't find Starbuck. But Barnsley can find Andy Saville. Flicked up the line by Robinson. Inside to McCord. Back to Robinson. Promising move building up there, and there were 4 men waiting in the box. So it was a good job for the Rovers that Moran was there to block the cross. In comes the long throw. Flick beyond Starbuck. Falls to Connolly, and his shot, well, his double shot is blocked, and away come the Rovers again. Richardson putting Tyler under pressure. I was going to say, and he's forced to concede a corner, but in actual fact, Richardson is penalised for the challenge in his back. Saville wins in the air, finds his partner Cooper. Long aimless ball forward there from Archdeacon, and Duxbury with acres of space. This makes a change. Usually they've been closed down very quickly. Duxbury puts it to Jason Wilcox, who very cleverly lets it run beyond him, but Fleming is covering and wins it. McCord back supporting him. And that sets Connolly away. Cooper to Connolly. Saville's free on the right. Here he is. Connolly gone to his right hand side again, but he tries to find Robinson, but Atkins is there. Frustration there for Connolly. He made a very good run down this right hand side, as does Mark Atkins now, but that ball's going to run away from him. A little strange that Clive Baker decided to kick it out. It had actually come 2 or 3 yards inside the box. Presumably he'd already made his mind up to kick it, not realising that it was running that fast. Moran. Long high ball. Starbuck up, but Baker collects. We've seen some nice passing from Phil Starbuck. We've still got to see him have a real opportunity on goal, and that's what we're looking for from a striker. As McCord is beaten in that attack, linesman totally baffled as to which way it should be. So Mr. Worrell asserts his authority and gives it to Barnsley. It was a good cross going in, and Steve Cooper was on the end of it until it was cut out. In fact, it's a corner. In it comes, swinging into the 6-yard box, headed away by Moran, dropping on the penalty spot. Overhead kick by Carl Tyler, but it was going wide and at not any great pace. Darren Collier collected it with just a couple of strides to his left hand side. There's Archdeacon, lovely bit of skill to put it over Richardson's head, but the passing wasn't as good as the play that preceded it. Atkins following this back, forced to put it out of play though. Steve Cooper was cutting off the route back to Darren Collier in goal, so that was the only option open to him. Now this is going to be a long throw into the box again. Comes off Starbuck. Fortuitously for the Rovers, it goes to Richardson. Tries to set Wilcox away with a long ball, but Fleming is back, covering him. Does show some nice vision on occasions, Lee Richardson, though. As he proved when he set up the goal for Howard Gale here against Hull City. Archdeacon forward. Moran there. So we move into the last quarter of an hour with a score at 1 apiece. But Andy Saville will change that if he can, as he shrugs off the challenge of Kevin Moran, but he can't elude the dive from Darren Collier. He'd been driven wide, but even so, as he showed with the first goal, he could well have clipped it in from that narrow angle if Collier hadn't got down sharp and clean to take it from his feet. Trying to find Wilcox, and they do. Gary Fleming heads it out to play for a throw. Waits for Duxbury and then takes it himself. Decides not to wait as Miller comes across, but handball given. Miller controlling it with his arm. Moran showing no hesitancy whatsoever throughout this match with his challenges with the ball in the air. Obviously quite happy that the forehead has healed completely and there have been no signs whatsoever of any patches of blood on that plaster. Duxbury hits it down, trying to find Stapleton, but Taggart there before him. John Miller. Superb ball out to that right-hand side if Richardson can get there, but he was possibly 5 yards adrift. Atkins lobbing it inside. Stapleton, Starbuck inside him. Stapleton's gone on, tries to get his cross in, a second opportunity. Up go the heads, it's a red shirted one that wins it, and away come Barnsley, only for the moment though, as the ball finds its way to Richardson and comes off a Barnsley defender for a corner. As the Rovers look for what they hope will be a winner. Jason Wilcox to take this corner. Crowded penalty area. Flicked away. Well, a flick away by Mark Robinson. Only found Lee Richardson on the edge of the box. And he put a high rising shot in. Plenty of power, but it skimmed over the top of the bar. As we have the first substitution of the afternoon. A strange one really, as the man who has presented danger to the Rovers all afternoon comes off with 9 minutes remaining. Andy Saville replaced by Brendan O'Connell. So up comes that chant of Burnley reject. Brendan O'Connell, of course, an ex-player down the road at Turf Moor. Steve Cooper flattens Darren Collier, and both players feel the effects of that challenge. Well, I was talking earlier about Barnsley's form this season. Started the season with a 2-1 home win against Brighton. Cooper and Smith getting the goals. Then they went to Millwall, newly relegated, and suffered a 4-1 thrashing, with Ian Banks getting the consolation goal. And then last weekend they went down to the first home defeat against the league leaders Oldham Athletic by a single goal. And away from the league action in the Rumbelows Cup, it took penalties, 4-3, for them to advance at the expense of Wigan Athletic. Done a good job of winning the first leg 1-0 at Springfield Park, but then had the setback of losing the home leg 1-0, and with no further score in extra time, it went to penalties. And Barnsley came out on top. Perhaps they've been watching the Republic of Ireland in the World Cup. Cooper shakily gets to his feet, looking a little worse for wear after that challenge on the Rovers goalkeeper. Does this mean that Barnsley are going to miss the services of the second striker, having just substituted Andy Saville? The physio seems to believe he should go off, but Steve Cooper McCord up to the sub, O'Connell. Fortunately for Barnsley, they had two strikers on the subs bench. How's that for planning? Somebody must have looked in a crystal ball this morning. So two strikers replaced by two other colleagues who are just as handy at finding the back of the net. So shouldn't really be any detriment to Barnsley's striking power in this last 5 minutes of the game. Gary Fleming beaten by Jason Wilcox. And frustration shows on the Rovers players' faces as that free kick is awarded to Barnsley. Gary Fleming with the free kick. And Brendan O'Connell beats Darren Collier, who came out and wafted at the ball, didn't make any contact whatsoever, and a simple little nod from the ex-Burnley man, Brendan O'Connell, only on as a substitute about 3 minutes ago, has put Barnsley back into a 2-1 lead. What a simple goal, just like the first one. And the Rovers are stunned. Starbuck now trying to get the Rovers back into it. Interesting that the Rovers must have a good relationship with Nottingham Forest. Of course, they had Andrew Marriott on loan from that club last season around Christmas time, and he made 2 appearances. As this ball bounces around in the box before returning to the City ground. In fact, the Nottingham Forest, Brian Clough's policy is to send people out on loan to gain experience. Phil Starbuck is the 15th player on the books at the present time who have gone out on loan to previous clubs, and they've gone to 26 different clubs. This is Phil Starbuck's 3rd spell on loan, his previous ones being with Birmingham and Hereford. Well, Barnsley will be encouraged by this start to the season. Not only did they lose 5-0 here at Ewood, but they had an even worse defeat at the Hawthorns. Would you believe 7-0 to West Brom? Found themselves next to bottom at the beginning of March. Then they only lost 3 of the last 15 matches and finished 19th 6 points above the relegation zone, and they're looking determined that there's not going to be any repeat of those worries and fears this season if today's performance is anything to go off, because a win today will push them up into mid-table, and of course a defeat for the Rovers will push them nearer towards the bottom of the table. Gary Fleming to take it. As Barnsley have a spring in the step again. Back to McCord. Happy enough to play around with it in this corner. Now they look a bit more adventurous. Cross from Fleming, drifts out to play. And a Rovers substitution with just 1 minute remaining on the watch. Mike Duxbury comes off to be replaced by Leonard John Rose. Rammel trying to get in the action. He's not had much opportunity so far. Stapleton runs to John Rose. First touch of the ball. Can he produce anything? Taking on Mark Smith. Sorry, it's Gary Taggart who's there with him. Forces it out. Rovers desperate. But whereas 5 minutes ago it could have been desperate for a winner, it's now desperate for an equaliser. Otherwise they'll suffer the second successive defeat here at Ewood Park. And in fact the third in succession, if you put it together with the 2-1 result at Ipswich last weekend, as Archdeacon comes away with it. 4 men up in support. Here's Rammel, runs away from him, and Wilcox had come back to cover what for an instant there looked a very dangerous move and could well result in a third and clinching goal for Barnsley, as we're now a minute into injury time. The Rovers conceded a goal a minute into injury time against Newcastle. Can they produce a reversal of that at the other end of the pitch in injury time in this match? Stapleton, well policed by Taggart. Fleming down the line. Rammel up. Can't find a colleague though. Hill into the box, but Richardson can't reach it before Baker. As the terraces begin to look thinner and the gaps begin to show. Mark Smith only presents it to Miller and then brings him down. Can this be a last fling as the whistles rise from the Darwin end? Hill up, but he's beaten to it by Taggart. Atkins flicks off the top of Keith Hill's head and away for a goal kick. And the opportunity for the Rovers to rescue a point drifts away with every passing second. Now 3 minutes into injury time. flicked on to Rammel, but the whistle goes offside. Quickly taken by Moran. Wants the ball downfield. Collier obliges. Starbuck can't win it under the challenge from Smith, and Richardson's ball forward is headed back to the goalie by Jerry Taggart. Rammel and Hill. Rammel gets there first. Brendan O'Connell. And the offside flag is raised once more. And the Barnsley fans and players wait for the final whistle. But no sign as yet of it coming from Mr. Worrell as Rammel goes forward again. Takes on Keith Hill. Comes to the deck. Nothing given, but it doesn't matter anyway as Joe Worrell brings this match to an end. And victory goes to Barnsley with a final scoreline of Blackburn Rovers 1, Barnsley 2. Two sloppy goals really went Barnsley's way. Andy Saville flicked in a Robinson cross from the 6-yard box in the 15th minute, and then 3 minutes from the end, what a sweet moment from the ex-Burnley striker Brendan O'Connell on a substitute as he beat Collier's flaying arms and flicked in the winner, and sandwiched in between was an equaliser with a looped header from Frank Stapleton after 59 minutes, but not good enough. The Rovers are left with a record of played 5, won 1 and lost 4, and with another home match against Leicester City on Tuesday, how important it is that they start to pick up some home points.